Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be asked to chair this session and indeed the next one as well on this very important topic. And I'll come back to that at the start of the panel session, but let me, without any further hesitation, introduce you to Dr. Helmut Wenisch, who is the head of corporate technology at Siemens in Japan. But he was born in Wuerzburg in Germany, but he's very international in places he has studied and lived, including master's degrees from Germany and also in the US, PhD from Bremen University in Germany, and an MBA from Temple University, but in Japan. So he really brings us a great international perspective. He spent a couple of years of postdoc in Japan at Tohoku University. After that, he worked for more than 10 years for Sony in Japan in different roles as in research, corporate strategist, and so forth. And he currently leads, as I said, Siemens's Corporate Technology in Japan, and that's particularly focused on university relationships, which he may touch on as to why that's particularly strong in Japan. But he's going to give us an insight into Siemens' relationships with the university from a global perspective, and we very much look forward to hearing that, Helmut. So please, without further ado.
Okay, microphone seems to work. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. It's a great honor and pleasure to give here the keynote speech about Siemens University relations strategy. So Siemens is a very old company, founded in 1847 by Werner von Siemens. We had just last year the 200th birthday of him. What is actually the business of Siemens? Siemens businesses are shown here. So basically it is energy business, power and gas, big gas turbines, wind power and renewables, wind turbines, smart grid technologies is in energy management. Then we have as a fourth business building technologies, which is actually headed in Switzerland. Mobility is the business for building the German high-speed ICE trains, but also subways and so on. And then come the two businesses related to industry. One is a digital factory, which is nowadays a very software-driven business for product lifecycle management, where basically software can be used for design, testing, and also service of the products. Process industry and drives is more about factory automation and the related hardware. In Japan, actually, biggest business is healthcare. So they are nowadays called healthineers. And these are basically computer tomographs and so on. And there's financial services. So these are the businesses, but I'm actually from corporate technology. And so we need to think actually not about the current businesses and products, but about the next generation of products. So in the big picture, Siemens in the first 50 to 100 years was back and forth, was basically working on electrification. Then in the 1970s, working on automation in the factories. And nowadays, actually, the big topic also in Siemens is digitalization. So you might have heard about Industry 4.0, for example, as a German initiative. So the outline of my talk will be in three parts. I will talk about the university relations group as a function under the Chief Technology Officer, then how to approach this strategically and what are actually the success factors in university industry cooperation. So, this is a diagram which shows the different functions under the Chief Technology Officer. So first of all, the Chief Technology Officer is the Chief Technology Officer not only for corporate technology, which is supporting all these businesses, but is actually the Chief Technology Officer for all the company. And that's actually not so obvious. So in some companies, this might be quite difficult that the CTO gets some influence even on the businesses and the business roadmaps. And so under the CTO, there's not only laboratories. Actually, laboratories are here, research in digitalization and automation, and research in energy and electronics. Both have about 10 to 12 technology fields, and each technology field has 10 research groups roughly, with 20 to 50 people. And the point is also, this already is global in Siemens. So actually there might be some research groups here on energy storage, which are then also in the organization globally connected to this organization. So it's not just to open a lab in China and let them do and see what they can do in the local innovation system. Of course, we have a group for intellectual property. We have actually this, I think, kind of unique, a group which is internal technical consultants who help actually the researchers in here and in here to get projects from the businesses. So they moderate and help in workshops with the divisions to have also then the alignment of the research to the businesses. We have a very new group here called Next 47. So Siemens founded in 1847. Our CEO said at a time where it was a startup where there were not yet garages in Silicon Valley. And this new group here is actually bringing together the venture capital people with people who already in the last years worked on with startup companies. So they are actually screening for globally for startup companies. You can find their website. It's a company in the company, which also starts now some accelerator programs. And you can see the topics they are working on, Bitcoin and distributed energy systems, artificial intelligence, and so on. So I'm here from the University Relations Group, and in Japan we are also part here of this Technology and Innovation Management, which is basically the technology strategy department. So I could also talk for an hour about what they are doing, what we are doing, which is basically looking into the future, which is defining roadmaps, looking at trends worldwide, and also doing actually standardization and lobbying for our research policy. But I want to focus today on this university relations framework. So there are about 20 people in this university relations. They are not all in Munich, but they are also, again, distributed worldwide. And the three big services, so it's a service organization within the company, are first of all collecting information, what is going on inside and outside about best practices on university relations. Also having transparency of all activities of Siemens with academia. This means, for example, that everyone in Siemens, which is a company of 350,000 employees, everyone who does a project with a university needs to put the project into an internal database, where then we have this transparency to see what is going on. Of course, when it comes to concrete topics, when someone wants to work with university but is not sure with which university in the world to work, The group gives also assistance then finding collaboration partners and what to do. I mean, we can work as contract research, we can do joint research, we can maybe go for a government-funded project, or we can do actually some more innovative activities like hackathons or so, or idea contests with the university. And the last one is then that in this group there are a number of university relations managers who are basically working with the universities like we do also sales. So we have for sales account managers. So here we have university relation managers where one person is responsible for this strategic partner university, and all communication with the university goes through him. So a little bit more image how this is then filled with life is so we can do, of course, not only just R&D projects, but we can actually do some idea contests, as I said. We can do a Siemens Day at the university. This all is actually quite related to research. But actually in Siemens also the research approach to universities and the recruiting or HR approach is aligned. Of course, in the best case, the same university is interesting for recruiting and for research, but there might be cases where only one of the two is more important for Siemens. The third aspect actually is where we see at Siemens universities is also as customers. I mean, there are maybe university hospitals or so who can buy actually our computer tomographs. So this analysis we do is more here. So like we in Japan did actually recently a global, not only Japan, but a global artificial intelligence landscape. And so we looked at which universities and up to which professors are actually leading nowadays in artificial intelligence research. And we were looking at with whom are we working at the moment, and then trying to think of how we can improve our approach in this area by maybe adding some of the leading universities to our portfolio. These are the two databases we use internally. So the Unico Plus is this database where I said all Siemens research collaborations are shown. The other one is also kind of interesting. It's actually how we sometimes identify professors. So sometimes our hunting field is very narrow. So it can be as narrow where we look for the best expert in the world for carbon fiber reinforced plastic recycling. And what we have here is a database where basically we put these keywords in, and we don't get publications out, but we get actually ranked universities out. Because we think, of course, that a university is good for us if there is a cluster basically working on this, and not only a single professor who has a large number of publications. And the group also does some consulting actually on R&D funding. So we are, of course, also with the German government and with the EU projects in Brussels, very close to them. So how is now the strategic approach developing in Siemens? So of course it's an open innovation approach. On one hand, Siemens spends about 4 to 5% of the revenue on R&D with 32,000 R&D employees and having a lot of inventions and patent applications. There is a large number of this is actually in my organization of corporate technology. And here, please see a large number of software developers. So Siemens really shifting from hardware to software. But not all of this can be done internally. So we actually work with universities strategically on 2 levels. The one is CKI, Center of Knowledge Exchange, and the second level of universities is principal partner universities. I have them here on this slide. So the CKI universities, Center of Knowledge Exchange, are in US, Berkeley and Georgia Tech. In Europe or Germany, okay, Europe, Copenhagen, Germany, Aachen, Erlangen, Munich, Berlin, Graz in Austria, and in Asia, Tsinghua University in China. And there is a second level of partner universities, which is called principal partners. So they are shown here. There are some in UK also, some more in China. So how actually to become such a strategic partner university? So it's not necessarily a top-down strategy. So it has actually several aspects. It's not also only scientific excellence. So, of course, international or national ranking in some engineering ranking in the world in Siemens relevant disciplines is helpful, but that's not the main aspect. You might have seen there is Erlangen University on the list. I think they don't appear in any ranking in the top 300 in the world or so. Actually, this is very important, and this is also kind of a chicken and egg problem. So you can become a strategic partner university if there is already a good track record in collaboration. So we look actually onto how big are the project budgets spent by Siemens on this university in the last years. How many people do we actually hire every year from this university, and additional factors. Of course, if you just, this is almost like, I mean, if you go in a shop and you buy something, so if you go just always to the best universities in the world, then of course there might be later some problems here with, you identify the university and the professor, and then you start negotiating some research contracts. And I mean, Siemens is a big company with a big administration. University is a big organization with sometimes very stubborn organization. And I have actually these cases in Japan quite a lot. So then actually, is there actually any middle ground, any win-win situation to find when it comes to intellectual property? I mean, in Japan, it's sometimes, even when I go to one of these big national institutes, National Institute for Material Science, always top 3 in the world in ranking in material science. Of course, when I go there, they tell me from beginning, okay, yeah, we are happy to work with Siemens, but not on this and this and this and this topic, because Japanese industry is already interested in this. And so then it makes actually no sense to do only this top-down approach to identify the professor, but have from beginning already to take into account, is it actually possible to negotiate later a research contract or not? And sometimes, obviously, then universities which are more close to a Siemens location or are not the top, but maybe the second level in this field, might be more easy to make a R&D contract. Proximity to Siemens location. This means basically, it's also for me in Japan a disadvantage. We have in Japan a pure sales organization of Siemens, so we don't have any production, any factory, any R&D. On the positive side, I'm running a purely open innovation activity in Japan. But of course, like this, it's a little bit difficult I have to find, normally in Germany, a researcher who wants to do a project in Japan. And I mean, here, when we would think of more projects in Australia, of course, the distance is even bigger when I have my main researchers in Germany. But they are not always in Germany. They can be also in Princeton, in US, or they could be also in China. But basically, a proximity to a Siemens location, I would say R&D location, factory where also engineers are who can talk on eye level with university researchers is an advantage. Of course, also proximity to customers can be interesting. So if the university maybe works with one of our customers, then also it can be interesting for us to work with this university on a certain topic. So a little bit in the area of our product lifecycle management software. This could be used where basically we have some software, again, where you can design and test products. It's basically some CAD software with additional software modules around. Of course, if we do then a university project, maybe some localization with a customer in the country, then this can become interesting. And of course, if it's close to some Siemens growing markets, then it can be also helpful. So if this is kind of fulfilled, then of course should not do some small R&D project only, but should actually have a long-term, which means probably 3 to 5 years, engagement plan. And who can be the counterpart actually within Siemens? So it can be, again, my corporate technology researchers. Of course, I have then sometimes some not invented here syndrome by saying, okay, the university professor is doing X, Y, Z, and the guy inside the company says, okay, we could do this also if we would be asked to do it, so it's not so special. And many more reasons why this is difficult. Actually, a counterpart can be also the Siemens business unit itself. So it can be the mobility business unit, as I showed. They, of course, might have also a little bit more money, actually, to do then the university projects. And, of course, it also helps if then in the country there is a top management guy in Siemens who is actually doing the sponsorship and is actually going several times a year to the university and is fostering the communications there. I think we had already actually some universities lined up, but we could not find in the country a Siemens top management guy who wanted to engage with the university. He wanted more to focus on sales, actually. Then also university relations does not work. So then if we have such a university which have all these criteria, and I showed these 9 universities have this CKI, Center of Knowledge Exchange level, what we do then? So first of all, we fund actually within the university a CKI office, where basically there is a counterpart for us in the university who is our counterpart for talking with the university. In some countries, this is then someone from the university collaboration department. In Germany, it can be also just a PhD student, actually, who we are funding, and he is doing the communication within his university. And as I said, there's of course, so this is the guy then there, and on the Siemens side, there is this university relations manager. Again, this is the kind of key account management approach. There's a continuous dialogue, and we can do a lot of activities, again, like a yearly CKI conference at this university, and so on. So how this now looks specifically in practical. So this shows a few of the formats we have developed when it comes to the CKI partners. So I will not talk about everything, but so this box shows something which is called campus concept. It started actually with Erlangen, where there is the university in Erlangen. There's a lot of, Erlangen is one of the Siemens cities in Germany, where from 50,000 inhabitants, everyone is either a student or works for Siemens. So that's, of course, a very favorable situation. And in this kind of situation, so here it was decided to do actually a future energy campus, where basically there is a real overlap between the university and Siemens, where maybe there is an investment of over a few years of 10 million euro. And there is Siemens employees in this campus, and there are students in the campus, and there is a long-term engagement plan. So topic here is energy storage, is power electronics, and everything about future energy systems. So this was the first of this. And the second actually was started with the Technical University of Munich, more on the topic of automation and digitalization. So big data, artificial intelligence, also this Industry 4.0 again. And of course, here actually 2 universities are involved in Munich. And also we have this research organization in Germany called Fraunhofer, which is here also involved. So this is the campus concept. Obviously, it works only really when the proximity is there. A second one is here SFB, Siemens Forschungsbereich. So there is a scheme in Germany called Sonderforschungsbereich, where basically government is funding at a university a project for 10 to 12 years, which is interdisciplinary, which takes maybe 5 to 10 institutes at the university into account, where all these institutes are working together for, again, 10 to 12 years on a certain topic. So Siemens took this kind of concept of a government-funded project for the university and is doing the funding by Siemens. So one example at Aachen University was such a research center set up for rare earth. So rare earth is, of course, a topic for Siemens because we use a lot of magnets in our wind turbines, in our computer tomographs. So over a few years, actually, a number of professors, PhD students, and so on were here working on building up expertise and world-class level on rare earth replacement, basically, by more abundant chemistries. And this model is recently also used, again, with the Munich University, actually, to do such focused research on future train systems. Then this one here is what recently happened, is that this 9 CKI partner universities, of course, they also come together once a year in Munich, and they talk and they network, and also during the year they are interacting. So what happened was that Tsinghua University in China got the chance with some Chinese funding to set up a research lab on data analytics, and because they knew the University of Aachen, our other CKI partner, they took them into their lab in China, and so there is now actually such a joint research lab of two of our CKI partners in China. And the last one I want here to focus on is this one, which is, of course, we are doing also crowdsourcing. So we are doing idea contests and so on. But as you heard, I worked before for 10 years at Sony in Japan. Of course, if you ask the people on the street how will be the TV look like in 5 or 10 years, everyone has some ideas. If you ask people what can be innovations for gas turbines in 5 to 10 years, you will not get so much answers actually. So the problem is that Siemens is in the B2B business. So actually I was also 2011 when I just joined Siemens in Japan, running a smart grid innovation contest. And I mean, we did this broadly for all universities, and there came in the world ideas back that, why not generate energy by having hamsters running in some wheels or something. I can tell you Siemens researchers were not impressed actually. They were kind of shocked what came in. So one has to do this a little bit differently in this B2B. Of course, we can use some agencies like Nine Sigma or so, which are maybe already better. But what was done here was basically we choose some of our 9 CKI partners, and this is still going on actually. And we promoted the topic, so we wanted actually innovation for digital twin. So nowadays, I said we have this product lifecycle management software, and so the point is that, for example, for a gas turbine or a wind turbine, we can have a lot of sensors there. But actually nowadays we designed already the product with software, with some CAD system. So we can actually have a digital twin, a digital representation of the product in software. And this helps, of course, then, if you have just 2 sensors somewhere in the gas turbine which show high temperature, you can run some machine learning, artificial intelligence, but it just tells you, okay, there's something wrong. But if you have a digital model of your gas turbine, of course, the model knows that, okay, between these 2 sensors, which have now 1,000 degrees, which is not normal, the material will melt or something like this. So there is a more additional value by having this digital twin of the real product, also then in doing predictive maintenance actually. And so we basically took some of these CKI partners and we asked them, what is missing up to now in this digital twin? I mean, it can become, obviously, these physics simulations and this modeling can become very, very complicated. So what is missing? What can be new business models and so on? And so some of these universities were chosen. There was then promotion at the universities. Students signed up. Students then generated ideas, and also in this case actually a hackathon was done, which also recently is done more and more in Siemens internally for software or for hardware also with rapid prototyping and 3D printers. So then maybe I skip the other activities with principal partner universities, and I have my last slide, which shows, as a kind of summary, what are the success factors for successful university-industry collaboration. So, as I said, first of all, who you choose to work with. So if we have already a history of successful cooperation, hopefully the two people who will collaborate together met each other on an international conference. So we don't need to bring them together, but they know each other already since many years. That's a good point. I say, unfortunately, proximity matters. I hope that when we move more towards software, that proximity matters no longer so much. But I can tell you, even if you want to send a solar cell from Japan to Germany, which is not a product, I mean, there's so much trouble with export control and so on. So you have really to think, is it not better to work with someone than in Germany on this technology rather than to fill out many paperwork on export control? Of course, what you do with the university is very important. So you should make some strategy and some plan. How to execute it. So we will then also set up a Siemens and University Steering Committee, which then will find some project topics for our strategic partners. And of course, there's also some promotion and some awareness on both sides, on Siemens and on the university side, that the two will work together. So with this, I want to close, and I will be still here today and tomorrow at the conference. I hope actually to learn more about best practices also here in Australia and Asia. And thank you very much for your attention.
Sarin from Malaysia. Thank you very much for the presentation. How do multinationals, many of your collaborations, the knowledge exchange centers are in Germany, but if you, on the next level, move out to universities around the globe, I wonder how multinationals, as they work on needs relevant to them, consider also the needs of national development within the countries they move into when it comes to R&D.
Well, I mean, companies create innovation ecosystems around them. Universities create ecosystems around them. I mean, you saw also on my second slide, I mean, Siemens is a very financial-driven company. Even here, my corporate technology has a CFO, as a chief financial officer. So on the second slide, you saw all the profit margins of all the businesses. I mean, at the end, we need to sell products, and we need to find the balance. This is more difficult, to find the balance, what to do inside, what to do outside, actually. I think for the university relations group, these topics are not so important. But of course, when it comes to corporate social responsibility and so on, the local sales organizations might do actually other activities with the universities in the countries, also to look for having the technology level going up in developing countries.
Well, thank you. We had better leave it there. So, Helmut, second, thank you very much for a very stimulating opening lecture, and we hope that we might get one of your CKI universities in Adelaide in the near future. And here is a little gift, thank you, one of our local innovative products.
Thank you.
From Haig's Chocolates. You'll love them. So, thank you very much.